So don't do the housewives thing, honey. Don't do that, Parvati.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who this be, it's your girl KylerB coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about the Traitors Season 2, Episode 4. So let's get into this video. So in this episode, we left off with, Parvati basically trying to find somebody to poison with this chalice, this like rusty dusty chalice. So she tried to get MJ. MJ wasn't gonna drink out of that cup. The targets were either MJ or Cherie or somebody else. And then I guess in a last ditch effort, Parvati saw Ekin Su. So she somehow got Ekin Su to drink out of the poison chalice, and Ekin Su actually did. So with that being said, everybody goes to sleep, when they have their morning breakfast, the three traitors sitting at the breakfast table already, they're discussing, who do they get to poison. So Parvati, tells Dan and Phaedra that she got Ekin Su to drink out of the cup. So after everybody comes in for breakfast, basically finds out that nobody got killed off in their sleep because Ekin Su still appears. So they're like, how's Ekin Su still here? Like, didn't you poison her with the chalice, got her to drink out of the chalice, whatever?
Oh my God, what is Ekin Su doing walking into breakfast right now? She's supposed to be dead.
So, but the thing is that the poison is going through slowly. So, we get to that. Deontay, we also have to talk about Deontay left the game. We also find out in this episode that Deontay left the game after, what happened with Max. Basically, after him picking wrong in the Traitors, and then he basically led the crusade against Max, and then he was wrong about Max. I think it got to him so bad because obviously he cried in the last episode, and then he decided to leave the show. But the thing is that while we're on the topic of Max was being suspicious. When they asked him 2 times on an occasion, they asked him to come and join them, sit down and chat. And he literally backs out of a conversation and then just leaves. So without anything else being said. So anyways, Deontay felt that he was traitors because of how he acted or whatever, and he was wrong. So it was too much for him to take, so he ended up leaving the game. So that's on Deontay. We find out that they have to basically partake in a funeral procession in today's episode to find out who did the traitors murder. So in the breakfast table, Lars is basically talking about how, Lars is like, the traitors are taking out her inner circle, they're taking out her inner circle. And then she proceeds to list her inner circle, talking about MJ, basically the housewives. She was cool with Johnny Bananas, and obviously Marcus, her boyfriend, and stuff like that. So I'm just like, Larsa, you shouldn't reveal this type of information, especially in an open public like this, because you're basically giving the traitors ammo or information of what they use. I would feel like she should have just she has good reads, but sometimes she needs to be cautious with how she's doing these reads, because she was definitely on to Dan. Her and MJ was on to Dan, for sure. But yeah, you need to calm down. So they have this whole dramatic funeral procession, and it was just dramatic. It was just dramatic. So they all wore black, and then they had this like horse carriage. So they had to find these clues to figure out who is the three that is going to be, you know, ended up being buried. So answering questions, there was one question of who's in the same age group, and Sandra was shocked that Larsa was born the same year as her, because she was just like, you look 10 to 12 years older than her, and I'm just like, Sandra.
I'm 74.
I didn't think Larsa and I were born in the same age, because she looks like at least 10 to 12 years older than me.
Sandra, you don't need to, you really trying to gag Larsa, because how you gonna talk about Larsa looks 10 years older than you? But anyways, so it ended up being Ekin Su, MJ, and Parvati, who was the three people left to figure out if who was going to be buried or not. So with these three left, everybody thought MJ was going to get murdered because, you know, or she was the one who was poisoned because MJ was the loudest. And then her decision to vote for Dan in the last banishment, you know, everybody's like, okay, it's MJ. Anyways, they all put the black rose on MJ, not realizing that it's the traitor knows Ekin Su, but they're not gonna pick Ekin Su. Like, why would anyone pick Ekin Su? Everybody thought Ekin Su was a traitor. They were like, oh, Ekin Su is acting too, you know, like too actory, like, you know, she's not good at acting or whatever. To find out that like Ekin Su is not a traitor at all. And then they find out that when Ekin Su was poisoned, everybody was shook because they really thought Ekin Su was a traitor.
Player who was murdered is Ekin Su. I was gonna put her. Wow.
So everybody was shook because they were like, the traitors lost a shield because Ekin Su, well, like everybody thought it was Ekin Su. So they could use Ekin Su as a banishment or something like that to take her out the game, whatever. Because everyone's like, oh, the way Ekin Su was acting, it just seems too overacting. Like she's not a good actor, People didn't even really like her. So after, you know, Ekin Su gets poisoned and she's basically murdered, the way that they slammed the casket on Ekin Su was just so grim. I'm just like, this is too dramatic. Like, bro, like, I know this for a dramatic effect, but like, imagine you get a casket slammed on you and then, you know, they're throwing dirt and flowers on you, like, blow, like, what are we doing? Anyways, they get back to the castle, so everyone's like, you know, the traitors are ruthless, like, they're willing to lose $20,000, you know, to do this and do that, So we get back and everyone's like, you know, trying to say who they trust and who they don't trust. You know, Trishelle and CT, you know, they're like, you know, their relationship grew since being there. They're like, you know, they trust only each other. I mean, one of the questions on the show, well, on the journey to, you know, to see who was poisoned was who the giant bananas trust the most in the game. And it was obviously the challenge veterans. Like, he trusts the challenge veterans, which is Trishelle and CT. And they had this whole, like, opera or whatever, or choir for Johnny, which is like, okay. And then after, you know, everyone's like talking, people basically said this is Larsa. Oh, well, with like one of the housewives. Parvati tried to bring up like one of the housewives, you know, or whoever's from Bravo is one of the traitors, because they want to pin it on Phaedra. Because Dan and Parvati are trying to like say no one's gonna suspect that she's a traitor, so they're like, it's better to let somebody like Phaedra get caught or go, you know, so they can take the scent off of them. Because everybody's trying to get Dan, and everyone's figuring out Dan might be a traitor very easily. because Larsa has the biggest mouth, and MJ is also clocking the tea that Dan is doing some stuff. Parvati, no one really vibing with Parvati, but also that Parvati is from Survivor. She is a gamer, things like that. You know, the gamers are okay with Parvati, which is only Janelle, Sandra, Dan. You know, that's about it. And then, you know, CT and Shishelle. With that being said, you know, Parvati's trying to take what Dan is putting down. Like, oh, we should, you know, try to feed Phaedra, you know, to get banished or whatever. Like, try to give them Phaedra. So that's why Parvati at the round table, we'll get there. So here's a round table. We get to the round table, and you know, everyone's trying to start off like who they think is a traitor or whatever. So Janelle starts off and says that is Larsa, because at the breakfast she says cheers to Marcus. So Janelle's using the chairs to get everybody to drink out of their cups as the way, you know, that they could have poisoned somebody in plain sight. The traitors could have poisoned somebody in plain sight, which I think that is, you know, a decent idea. Like, I don't think it's too far-fetched, you know. That is a, you know, a way that the traitors could have, if that was allowed, to get everybody to drink from a glass. But if they find out that the traitors, you had to get this person to drink out of a rusty old cup, and somebody actually drank out of it, they'll be like, it's like, they'll be so dumbfounded that actually happened. So Janelle uses that to, you know, the cheers for Marcus that Larsa did, that it was very suspicious and weird. So Larsa claps back and says, well, I think you're weird because you're very selfish. You know, getting hurt, Janelle getting 2 shields in the game, you know, and she just looking out for herself is very weird. So Kevin, you know, backs onto Janelle and says like, well, you know, if you were the traitor, no one would suspect you to kill your own boyfriend. So therefore, you know, Janelle doesn't have a point that it could be you. So then MJ is like, oh, you know, you do fit the description that Larsa is painting, that, because Larsa has this basically plan that there's an alpha male doing all these killings, because they took out Marcus, they took out Johnny Bananas. Who else did they take out of the game? They took out Max. Like, you know, the traitors are taking out these big players because they're an alpha male and they don't need somebody else. So they narrowed it down to between CT and Dan. So because they have been taking out a lot of guys in this game, and since Deontay also left the game, it's not that many guys been pointed on at all, and it's not going to be John or whatever. So Lars is like, it's either between CT and Dan. They're both from gamer shows, you know, they're both alpha males. So they picked CT because, you know, CT's buff and he seems like an alpha male. So Larsa pins it on CT, and CT's like, you got it all wrong. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So then MJ's like, well, you know, Kevin, you might fit that description of being an alpha male and being taking out all these other, you know, strong guys. And then, you know, Kevin got really bothered by, you know, MJ's, you know, saying, because, you know, what MJ's might have been saying is like, seems like, you know, Kevin is insecure. So then we get to, you know, everybody saying, you know, how Larsa's like, you know, how she rings everybody in or whatever, seems like she could be a traitor the way she gathers the group or whatever. So Parvati comes in and says that, you know, the housewives, they have like a strong clique. They're very, you know, always together. They're always in the house. So, you know, one of them could be the traitors. So Phaedra's like, you know, and then Parvati also says like, oh, you guys have scripts. Like, you guys, you know, reading off of scripts. Like, you guys are acting as well. So everybody that was a housewife on reality TV got Parvati together. Phaedra got Parvati together. She was like, nah, you not gonna do us. you are not gonna do this today. Like, you stepped on, like, Parvati stepped on toes by saying scripts and housewives in the sentence and everything. So everybody got on to Parvati, whatever. So then everybody voted, and it ended up being Larsa going home because, you know, everybody's just like, Larsa, it might, like, they don't really think it's you, but the arguments for Larsa seem stronger than the arguments for Kevin or CT. So with that being said, you know, Larsa ended up going home tonight, and she wasn't a traitor, obviously. So at the end of the episode, Phaedra, Dan, and Parvati, you know, get back into their little traitors lair or whatever. And Phaedra was like, nah, that's not cool. Like, what you did, like, she put two and two together. She realized quick and fast that Dan and Parvati were trying to throw her under the bus and make her seem suspicious.
That wasn't cool. For you to go in there and try to throw me under the bus.
Wait, what happened?
But when you do stuff like that, it brings attention to me. Like, oh, they work together, they're on the show. I'm like, are you kidding me? So don't do that to me. Both of you.
Because they know how good of connection that Phaedra has. No one is suspecting Phaedra of being any type of traitor at all. No one is suspecting Phaedra. They're saying that, you know, it could be a point that one of the housewives could be a traitor, you know, now that they think about it, but no one's suspecting Phaedra to be a traitor at all. Just like, you know, one thing about it, Parvati, nobody likes you here. You know, so let's play fair if you want to play fair, or if you're not going to play fair, you would have a bigger issues with the faithful, you know, faithful crew.
No one likes you, Parvati. Everyone says you're a traitor. We can be in this game together, but you're going to play fair. And if you don't, you have more problems at the faithfuls.
So she let Parvati have it, and I'm just like, you know what, Phaedra, let Phaedra know, because the thing is that Dan, let's just really chalk it up to what's going on here. Dan is trying to basically puppeteer this whole game. The only reason that he pulled Parvati into this whole traitor situation is because he knows how Parvati moves, knows how Parvati acts. And because Parvati likes Dan, or has, you know, has like some type of allegiance to Dan or whatever, she's gonna do whatever Dan says. So with that being said, you know, we have this whole Dan Parvati duo, and then that Phaedra's like basically, you know, relax, not gonna say nothing. She's basically a passive player as a traitor. But Phaedra's gonna keep quiet. She's gonna do her job, but doesn't think that she's passive, because once you start pulling the fingers at her, it's gonna be a mess. Anyways, Dan is like, you know, to be able to win this game, he's not gonna be able to win with Phaedra still in the game. And I mean, he might be right, but this is way too early to try to take out a fellow traitor and thinking you're gonna win this game after the fact. Like, come on now, be serious. So, like, Dan's really trying to puppeteer, because the only reason Parvati's in the Traitors is because of Dan. The only reason Dan doing all this, you know, hopping, you know, the only reason that, you know, Dan tried to get Parvati to poison either Cherie, and because Phaedra figured out, you know, or saw Parvati with that cup, she was like, nah, Cherie, you not gonna drink nothing. Like, you not gonna do that in front of me. So, Dan trying to take out Phaedra's alliances or duos or things like that, which I think, yeah, it could be smart for his game, but don't think the other players are gonna move or clap back, you know. Because besides Dan, that's the only person Parvati has in this game, because Sandra don't really like Parvati like that. You know, they're cordial together, but let's keep it a buck. Anyways, you know, Phaedra read them for filth, You know, she made them warn on notice that if they ever tried anything like that again, and put on her final boots and, you know, clap back at them. Anyways, and it's very easy to get the people to pull fingers at Dan and Parvati easily because they're both gamers. Because it's going to be a gamers versus housewives, you know, before we know it. So, let's keep it together. So, with that being said, that was episode 4 of the Traitors US. It is very, very, very good season. I feel like it's very, very good. I think this format of all reality cast is very good because it just seems like if you don't have that type of background and being a gamer or having these type of game mindsets, you're not going to bode well or do well in these type of shows at all. You know, you're going to feel very hurt, very betrayed, and stuff like that. Because it does take a mental taxing on your, you know, mental. So just like, Because in this day and age, people are still mad at Sari for what she did in season 1. And I'm just like, it's like, Sari, well, you can't be mad at Sari. Like, let's keep it a beat. But anyway, this was episode 4 of the Traitors US season 2. And if you guys like this video, comment down below, let me know your comments. Seriously, not subscribe to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.